Hello everyone and welcome to the bonus video this week from me on the channel, which is going to be a little sequel, you could say, to my best possible series. It's going to be a small video of me going through my worst possible series. I'm also going to be answering some comments from both videos last week at the end of this video, so stick around. But apart from that, sit back and enjoy, because I am so ready for the haters. So then, here we go, my worst possible series. Of course, most of you will know what this is, but if anyone is new to the channel and you've just clicked on this video for the first time, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. But this is also a sequel to my best possible series, which I did, where I did a video going through all the episode 1s, I picked my favourites, same with the episode 2s, and I did that for every episode in the series until I basically got my best possible series. And this is a sequel, basically, my worst possible series. I'm not going to go through each episode like I did with my best possible. I've literally just put together the worst possible series and I'm going to go through each episode on why it is there. So let's go with my worst possible series. So there you go, everybody. There is my worst possible series with my least favourite episode 1 to 13, my least favourite Christmas special, and my least favourite special, which I released just before this video. So, like I said, I would advise you, if you've not, to go and watch my best possible series as well, if you've not seen them, because I go into much more in depth on why I don't like these episodes and why I like other episodes over these, but I'm going to go through each of them quickly and why I dislike them. So, episode 1, New Earth, why do I dislike it? Why is it my least favourite episode 1? Well, I don't like Cassandra. I really dislike her. I think it's not the 10th Doctor's debut episode, but it's his debut in a series, and we still want to get to know this Doctor, and the fact that he spent about 10 to 15 minutes, I'd predict, being possessed as Cassandra really annoyed me. I think Rose being possessed by her annoyed me as well, and I just think Cassandra was just a frustrating monster. I really don't like her, and the frustrating part is that this episode had a lot of potential. It had Face of Bow in it, it had great characters. I think the hospital was a great setting, but I wasn't a fan of the cat nurses, if I'm honest. So there's a few things in this episode that really let it down, and it's a shame because New Earth could have been a lot better. Next up, we have Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, my least favourite episode 2, because basically the episode title was pretty much the synopsis. I mean, I was left very underwhelmed after watching this. I mean, when I saw that dinosaurs would be in Doctor Who, my hopes were raised, and I hope, like in Deep Breath, when we are apparently going to see a dinosaur again, I hope they are used in the right way. I just thought the Doctor riding around on a dinosaur, you know, when I saw dinosaurs in Doctor Who, I wanted them to be destructive. I wanted them to be what they are known for. Of course, they were nice herbivore dinosaurs that were harmless, but of course they were the T-Rexes, all the others that were just, you know, completely destructive, that destroy everything in their way. And I was left a little bit underwhelmed coming out of this episode. I wasn't really bothered about any of the characters we met. The only positive that came out of this episode was the way that the Doctor defeated Solomon in the end, by sending his ship away, of course, to kill him, pretty much. So, yeah, Dinosaurs in a Spaceship. A very disappointing episode that let me down. That's all I can really say. Next up, we have Victory of the Daleks, which I'll admit had a lot of potential also. I enjoyed Victory of the Daleks for the first 10, 15, 20 minutes. You know, I think Matt Smith's 11th Doctor reacted so well to the Dalek, better than the 10th Doctor did, and you could say even more violently than the 9th Doctor did. You know, smacking that Dalek relentlessly with a hammer was something I never expected from the 11th Doctor. And I'll admit, I love Winston Churchill, I love historical figures in Doctor Who, and I thought it was a great setting that they could do so much with, but of course, the one thing that completely killed this episode was the Paradigm Daleks. I mean, I'll say it again, as I've said before, the design is fantastic. They look big, they look gruff, they look more dangerous than the normal Bronze Daleks, but I think they were ruined with their colour scheme. So when I say I don't like the Paradigm Daleks, I mean their colour scheme, not their design. But it's just the way that the 11th Doctor can go from bashing a Dalek with a hammer to then threatening them with a jammy dodger, and they actually fall for it as well, which just makes them seem ridiculous. The Paradigm Daleks just like look, they seem like they were deliberately there to make the Daleks look ridiculous. It's like they were deliberately trying to humiliate them. And I didn't like the end of the episode, the Spitfires in space. That really didn't make sense to me. And when the Daleks were defeated, normally when Daleks are defeated, they are relentless and they will try their hardest to put up a fight. These Daleks, their beam got shot out, and they thought, oh no, and they disappeared. So I thought that they were a complete letdown, a complete embarrassment, and I think it was a poor attempt at evolving the Daleks. I think the Paradigms had so much potential, like the episode, and a bit like Dinosaurs in a Spaceship, I came out of this episode a little bit let down. Next we have The Power of Three, which is an episode I just cannot watch. I mean, I try my hardest to watch it. I mean, the Doctor being in the Pond's life is great. It's an interesting dynamic to, obviously, them being in the Doctor's life. It's always interesting to see the Doctor back on Earth and being completely bored. And I thought that was good, and they could have played with that a bit more. I think Unit being returning was great as well, but I didn't like the cubes. I didn't like them at all. I mean, I just wasn't really bothered about them. Was I supposed to be scared of them? Was I supposed to worry because of them? What was I supposed to do? I just felt no emotion from them whatsoever. They did nothing for the episode, in my opinion, and them giving people cardiac arrest was just another, something that I'm just not really fussed about. I mean, I should be worrying for them people, but I just was not invested in the story whatsoever, and the ending was a complete cop-out because it was saved by the sonic screwdriver, and you all know how much I hate episodes that are concluded by the overuse of the sonic screwdriver. So The Power of Three was a forgettable filler that I think would have made no difference to Doctor Who if it wasn't even there. At number 5 we have The Rebel Flesh, which is a story that I know a lot of people who like it. I can understand why. I know a lot of people who don't like it. I really don't like it. I wouldn't say I really don't like The Rebel Flesh. I'm just not a fan of it. I just don't like the gangers. I don't like the whole story. I don't like the plot. I don't like the characters. I don't know what it is about it. It's just one of them stories where if I had a row of Doctor Who episodes, it would be the last one I picked, because I'm not invested in it whatsoever, and I'm not bothered about what happens in it. I'm not bothered about the characters, and it's the same for the second part of this two-parter. I am just not invested in the story whatsoever, and it's one I would happily forget, and it's one that I hardly remember. I had to rewatch it just so I could talk about it, because I forgot what happened in it, because I had no motivation to rewatch The Rebel Flesh and the second part to this two-parter as well. So it's just an episode that I'm not invested in, and one that I will probably not go back and watch. At number 6 we have The Vampires of Venice, which was an episode which had vampires in it, and like Dinosaurs in a Spaceship, I saw vampires and I thought, oh my god, finally, we've had werewolves, time to have vampires in Doctor Who. I cannot flipping wait. And I'll be honest, first time viewing The Vampires of Venice, I loved it. I thought it was great. After rewatching it, I saw differently. I mean, the revelation for them being fish, pretty much, was just such a downer. I mean, there were some great parts in this episode. I mean, I love the vampires themselves. When I first watched it, I was invested in the vampires. I loved every scene they were in, and I thought the Doctor, Amy and Roy were great in this as well. But the revelation of them being fish people was it just killed it for me. It really killed it for me. And, it probably wouldn't have mattered to many other people, but I love vampires, and I was so pleased that they were in Doctor Who. And to then find out that they were never really vampires in the end really killed it for me. Killed the nostalgia, killed the intensity, and every time I just cannot go back and watch The Vampires of Venice, because I just know they're not actually vampires. And this may sound like the smallest nitpick to you guys, but to me, going into this episode when I first watched it, I had, out of all of Series 5, when we got that trailer, coming soon trailer, at the end of the 11th hour, the Vampires episode was the one I looked forward to the most, and ever since that, the letdown of them being fish just put me off completely, and I just can't go back to watch it, so it really let the Vampires of Venice down for me. At number 7 we have The Long Game, which was one of the little blips that went through Series 1, which was a flawless series. There was hardly any really bad episodes, and The Long Game isn't a bad episode really. It's just, you put it in Series 1, and before it comes Dalek, and after it comes Father's Day, and out of all the episode 7s, and I think I remember episode 7 being a very, very strong lineup, there was little to choose between each, but The Long Game is a forgettable story, and if it was in a different series it might look better, but Adam being in it, I don't know why the fandom hates Adam. I don't know why I hate him. It's just a character that I just really dislike and just really can't get along with on screen, really. And I just didn't like the episode. I don't know why. I mean, Simon Pegg playing the editor. I love Simon Pegg as an actor, but I didn't like the editor in this, to be honest. And I I wish that the editor would have been more of a threatening character than a comedic one. So I don't know if it was bad casting. Not because Simon Pegg's a bad actor. I love Simon Pegg, but I just think that the character of the editor should have been a lot more threatening and menacing, and they could have maybe got a more threatening and menacing looking actor. And the Mighty Jagrafest just didn't cut it for me as well. So the long game, I think it was a bit unfortunate that it was in a lineup of very good episodes, but yeah, an episode that if you look at series 1 as a whole, it's definitely the lowest point. At episode 8, another strong lineup I remember, we have Let's Kill Hitler, which is an episode that, wow, the title really was wasted. I mean, after A Good Man Goes to War, we see Let's Kill Hitler. Wow, Hitler's going to be in this episode. It wasn't even based around that. You know, he was in it for the first 5 minutes. Moffat brought his fascist side out and made us feel sorry for Hitler by locking him in a cupboard. And the episode was basically based around Tesselectors. And you all know my feeling on the Tesselector. I'm not really a fan either. And River Song really let this episode down as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, the revelation of Mel being River and the fact that Amy and Rory had grew up with their own daughter was nice, because of course we thought they'd spent their own life not even seeing their daughters growing up, but they technically grew up with their own daughter, which was lovely. But when she regenerated into River, River was flirty and annoying, and I just don't like River when she's that flirtatious. It just gets a bit annoying, and I find this episode very difficult to watch for them reasons as well. So Let's Kill Hitler's an episode that I find a little bit messy. I don't like River in it. I'm not a fan of the Tesselector, and it just all them little things combined puts me off rewatching this episode. So Let's Kill Hitler is my least favourite episode 8. Episode 9, we have Night Terrors, which again came in with a very, very, very strong lineup, believe me. But Night Terrors for me, I mean, I love the pot doors. I think they were very, very scary, and I will never, ever, ever forget that scene when Amy transforms into a pot doll. I mean, that scene will stick with me. I don't know why. It's just one of them scenes that you just cannot forget about. But the thing that killed me from this episode was the child actor. Of course, it was revolved around him. He was in a lot of scenes, and you know, every time the Doctor Matt Smith was portraying his brilliant acting, and he was with this child, and he was, you know, he just wasn't acting well. It took me out of the story completely. And Night Terrors is another story which is, you know, I'm sure when I can't remember now because I constructed this lineup so long ago now, but I do recall remembering that it was a very difficult choice. I think I like all the episode 9s, but if I had to choose one, it would be this one, because I just don't have much motivation to go back and watch it. And the child actor was not the best, because with the episode being revolved around his character, you know, every time he spoke, it took me out of the story completely. So the only positive, I think, the Doctor and Amy were brilliant in it. I think the pot doors were very scary, but it being revolved around this child, and it wasn't for me. So it's a shame really, but Night Terrors is my least favourite episode 9. Episode 10 was a very, very strong lineup, and there was one episode that stood out like a sore thumb, which just had to be it was Love and Monsters. Of course, the least favourite episode 10 of mine. I mean, slowly over time, my hatred for this episode has disappeared, but it will always remain one I just don't like. I mean, the Absorber Loft does it for me. I mean, I didn't mind Victor Kennedy. I mean, I wasn't a fan of Peter Kay's casting at first, to be honest, but I think he pulled it off as Victor Kennedy. I'll be honest, I was surprised, but the Absorber Loft was just a complete Mickey take. I mean, yeah, it was all nice, you know, getting a primary school child to design a monster, but for an actual episode of Doctor Who, it was just a bad decision. I wasn't a fan of Elton, so it being, obviously, the episode being revolved around him, obviously, if I don't like the character, I'm not going to like the episode. I thought Linda were a nice crew, though. I think they were a nice crew, a canny crew that you just couldn't help but like a little bit. And them getting killed off one by one was good, until you actually found out what was actually killing them, which was the Absorber Loft. It was a Doctor Light episode, of course, which many people dislike just because it's Doctor Light. But, of course, some Doctor Light episodes work very, very well, like Blink, among others. But yeah, Love and Monsters really didn't work for me. It was a nice attempt for Russell T Davies to do an episode of Doctor Who which was completely different, but it didn't work at all. The Absorber Loft killed any hope for this episode, and I didn't like Elton anyway. So yeah, there was no hope for me ever liking this episode. So yeah, Love and Monsters is a given. Now, when I originally put number 11 in there, I felt like Fear Her was a definite choice. And since then, since when I did go through the episode 11s, it did become a bit more difficult to put her in this position, because I think people give this episode a lot more shtick than it actually deserves. It was second lowest in the DWM rankings, which I think there are some of the episodes in this actual worst possible series. Some of the others are worse than Her. I think the child acting was good in it, I think, and the setting of the 2012 Olympics was good as well, because it was quite close to our own future, which is always interesting. And the little neighbourhood it was set in was nice. It was just a nice, canny episode, and I didn't mind I think the little girl being able to draw monsters was a good dynamic, but I think the Doctor getting attacked by a scribble creature, and just little things like this just kind of took me out of it a little bit. And at the end, when it turned out to be them little thing that I can't remember the name of it was so long ago since I've watched it. Like butterfly creatures that were just lonely. I didn't really like that. I mean, I don't know. This episode was so close to me liking it. I like the little girl being able to draw things and come to life is a great idea, but I don't think it was delivered to its best. Like the girl's father being a drawing coming to life, I wasn't really a fan of that. So it was a good concept, I just don't think it was delivered too well. But I do remember episode 11 being a very tough lineup. So as much as I began to like Her a lot more, it unfortunately does remain my least favourite episode 11. Episode 12 was an obvious choice for me. It had to be Closing Time. I like Craig Owens as a character. I said this a few weeks back. I do like Craig Owens, but and I like the Lodger. I think the Lodger's not bad, but Closing Time was Stormageddon. I like the scenes when the Doctor was talking to Stormageddon. I think they were nice, but the Cybermen being in this was what did it for me. They could have had a one-off, newly created monster that didn't have to appear again. It just had to be in this one-off episode. But the Cybermen being in it, I don't know why they were in it. They were wasted in this. I don't know I think it was just an excuse for the Cybermen to be in Series 6, if I'm honest. So, Closing Time is not an episode that I enjoy as much as The Lodger, and I think the Cybermen being defeated by Love was just embarrassing for them. There was no need for them to be there, no need for them to be embarrassed the way they were. So yeah, Closing Time for me is my least favourite episode 12. Again, it's great to see the Doctor on Earth, and I love Craig Owens, but the Cybermen were misused and completely humiliated in this, which I don't like. So yeah, Closing Time is my least favourite. My least favourite episode 13 is The Wedding of River Song, because it is a complete and mitigated piece of crap. It completely demolished what was a great story arc in Series 6. It destroyed every single thing that was in the episode. It misused Brigadier's reference to Nicholas Courtney's death, which I thought was terrible. It was just a complete, terrible mess of an episode that consisted of the Doctor constantly changing his mind if he wanted to die or not. It was full of continuity rubbish. The wedding was a complete pointless thing that didn't even need to happen. All they had to do was touch hands. I don't know why they had to get married. River was annoying in this. The story arc was annoying in this. This episode was a complete mess, and I hate it so much. Done. My least favourite Christmas special is The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe, because this was just a complete waste of my time. It was a terrible Christmas special with a terrible story. It was incredibly cheesy, incredibly cringy. The ending was just a cop-out ending. The cameo from Bill Bailey was just a complete misuse. I mean, that was only there to make people want to watch the episode. He was in it for a total of 10 minutes. This episode was a complete waste of time.
Let's not forget the wooden creatures.
And the wooden creatures were disgraceful. So coming after The Wedding of River Song, The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe is an unmitigated piece of shit. Oh, and after 2 very quick rants, because I simply can't be asked talking about them. Oh, I wish I didn't have to do this. My least favourite special is Planet of the Dead, but it's not because it's my least favourite. It's just, oh my god. You'll know if you've just watched my previous video. It was with The Waters of Mars, The End of Time, and The Day of the Doctor. I mean, it's not my least favourite. Well, it is my least favourite, but it's great. It's a great story, and it pains me so goddamn much to put this in, because I love it so much. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Planet of the Dead is fantastic. I'm not going to go through it because I did in my previous video, but I just want to stress to anyone who loves Planet of the Dead, I adore it. I think it is a great, great, great story, but with the specials, it was very difficult to put a least favourite, because there was only like 5 episodes that I discussed, and it was very difficult to define what the fine line between what a special was and what a minisode was, and judging which was what. So when you put Planet of the Dead next to Waters of Mars, End of Time, The Day of the Doctor, and the other specials that I discussed, it comes last, but that's not because it's a bad episode. It is a fantastic story. So every time I come back to the worst possible series, I'm literally just going to put my finger in front of Planet of the Dead and pretend that it's not even there. The only reason I added it in is just to complete the worst possible series, but if I could have it any other way, I would just have episode 15 blank, but there has to be an episode there, and it had to be Planet of the Dead, and it really does pain me, because, believe me, I can't stress this enough, I adore that story. So anyway, guys, that's my worst possible series. I've briefly went through each one. I'm not expecting the greatest reaction from a lot of people, but it's not the first time that I've done a ranty video, I guess. So yes, of course, I'm going to quickly answer some comments now before I end this video. I'm going to answer 3 comments from both of last week's videos, which was my episode 13s and my Christmas special. So just like last week, I'm going to answer 3 comments from my first video and 3 from my second video, so I'm going to start off with episode 13. And my first comment is from Frankie Holland, who says, "Very nice video once again, thank you. And over all these episodes, I have to say, since Moffat took over as head writer, the episodes have become very poor in the writing quality. I only hated a couple of RTD episodes, but even if I did hate them, they'd at least get a 3 out of 10 for being a Doctor Who episode. I really hope the writing improves during Series 8. Well, I agree with you completely about Moffat writing. Well, I do think Russell's finales were better than Moffat's, if I'm honest. I don't know what it is about Russell's, they just seemed to flow better, they seemed to work better, they had a better ending, they summed up the story arc a lot better. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Russell did have flaws. I think Series 1 finale was flawless, Series 2 was close to flawless, Series 3, like I said, the Doctor becoming all blue and flying, you know, it was a little bit far-fetched, but I still loved it. Journey's End was Russell's worst finale. You know, he just kind of thought, oh god, I don't know how to end this, I'm just going to make Donna press a few buttons, and you know the rest. But Moffat's, I mean, I like The Big Bang. It's just a guilty pleasure of mine, but I will admit The Big Bang was a bit messy. The Wedding of River Song is a pile of crap. And The Name of the Doctor, I wouldn't really count it as it was the final episode of Series 7, but Series 7 was standalone, so The Name of the Doctor doesn't feel like a series finale, it just feels like another episode in the series, really. I mean, it summed up Clara's story arc a little bit, but it didn't feel as much like a series finale, because it didn't really end a story arc like the others did. But yeah, I agree with you, Russell's are definitely better than Moffat's, and with the Series 8 finale being a 2-parter, fingers crossed Moffat can pull this off and not make it a wibbly wobbly timey-wimey mashup. My second comment is from Matty1304, who says, "And all the Rose fanatics will rage." It's a surprise, actually. I don't think any people actually commented on this video insulting me about my dislike for Rose. Just looking, no, I don't think there is actually a hate comment towards me, which is surprising. But yeah, I think that all the Rose fanatics have gave up on our channel because they know me and James both don't like Rose. James did a Why He Hates Rose Tyler video a long time ago, and that still gets hate to this day, and it always will do. So yeah, I believe that Rose was good in Series 1, rubbish, well, I wouldn't say rubbish, that's actually quite harsh. She was alright in Series 2, but I didn't like her ending and how emotional it was, and her love story with the 10th Doctor was just disgraceful. I really didn't like it. And I liked her in Series 4, especially in Turn Left. I thought she was brilliant in that. But yeah, when we actually found out why she came back for the Doctor, she went straight back to her Series 2 self of humping his leg. Especially, I mean, that scene in Journey's End where the Doctor's still you. I mean, if she's not going to settle for a carbon copy of him, then she should seriously just sort her priorities out, honest. So yeah, the Rose fanatics didn't rage, but yeah, I think they've just given up on our channel, if I'm honest. My third comment from this video is from Baz225, who has a very, very good theory. He says, "I've got a theory about why the Daleks might have had some buttons which could easily destroy them. I think it might have been Davros' doing, as he was a prisoner in the vault, as the Supreme Dalek called it, so he might have created a system which he could use to control the Daleks once they had destroyed the whole of creation. I doubt he would want to be kept as a prisoner after they had won, just a thought." That's a very interesting theory. It's a difficult one to clarify because, of course, Davros seemed like he was all for the reality bomb, all for taking over the universe, but maybe after they took over the universe and used the reality bomb, Davros could have then used the controls to destroy all the Daleks, leaving just him. You don't know, really, and with Davros being on that ship, I just think it would be too much of a coincidence and too obvious that Daleks being the supreme clever monsters they are, would create a machine that would even have the slightest chance of destroying themselves. So I think it would be likely that someone on that ship would have to infiltrate the controls to make them do what they did. So with Davros being a prisoner, you know, he could have infiltrated the controls when no one was looking, or, you know, I mean, he has his chair, he could have done anything. And it is very weird, and this is what I thought. When Donna pressed all them buttons, it made the Daleks spin around and it made their exterminator blasters, you know, not useful, they couldn't work. But it didn't affect Davros. It only affected the Daleks. Davros wasn't spinning around or anything, he wasn't out of control. He was, I think he was the only one who actually was just still sat there. So it makes sense. It's a very good theory that I've never thought of. It does make sense that it might have been Davros, because let's be honest, the Daleks have double-crossed him many times, so he might have wanted to betray them. And like I said, the controls didn't affect him, just the Daleks, so we might find out one day if Davros returns, but if we never find out, that is a very good theory. Now on to my second video last week, which was the Christmas specials. My first comment is from David who says, "Great video, thank you. I see what you mean about the Christmas Invasion being the best of the modern specials. It did set the benchmark very high. Personally, I liked The Runaway Bride because of its references to Planet of the Spiders, and because Donna is so funny in what is actually a very dark and serious story for the Doctor. But yeah, the Christmas Invasion technically deserves to be top of the list. I agree with you again. About the episode 12 comments, actually the Doctor and Rose reunion bit was shown as a clip as part of a talk show that David Tennant was on, and everyone in the audience cracked up laughing when the Daleks shot the Doctor. Was it supposed to have been a parody? I have no idea, I've not seen that talk show, but I would love you to send me a link to that video in the comments below, because I would love to see that. But yeah, the fact that everyone laughed when the Daleks shot the Doctor, I find quite hilarious, because I've said it before and I'll say it again, that Dalek is possibly the greatest Dalek to ever exist in Doctor Who, because that scene when they're running towards each other, and it's like, oh, beautiful music, all romantic. I was begging for someone to interrupt, and when that Dalek went zoof, I mean, I love the 10th Doctor, but my god, he had to exterminate. I mean, I wish the Dalek had exterminated Rose, because then she'd have just been done, kaput, bye-bye, no more. But, you know, had to exterminate the Doctor, but yeah. I love that Dalek. That Dalek deserves a medal, deserves to be knighted. It really does, I love that Dalek. My second comment is from Parachute Walker, who says, "Great video, can't believe this series is nearing its end. I must say that with the exception of A Christmas Carol, which I think is a masterpiece, Moffat's other Christmas specials showcase the tripe of Doctor Who. The Doctor that Within the Wardrobe is hugely disappointing, making me believe Moffat farted it out in the space of an afternoon. If you think Moffat farted out that Christmas special, he must have followed through when he written The Wedding of River Song." Followed through? What the hell was that? That's disgusting. The Snowmen, whilst being perfectly passable, is just a sort of make it up as you go along type episode, and whilst The Time of the Doctor had some excellent moments, it was still pretty average due to the untidy way it ties up loose ends, the fact that none of the monsters were well utilised, and Tasha Lem being the representation of Moffat women, which is not a good thing. Out of interest, what are your thoughts on Moffat and sexism? I think James made his views clear in his video about River Song, so I was wondering what you thought. Moffat and sexism. I think Moffat needs to give women more independence, and I think Moffat's women characters have all been very similar. I mean, if you look at Russell and the way he written women, there was undertones of flirting. I mean, for God's sake, you know, Rose and Martha fancied the Doctor, for God's sake. You know, Rose and the Doctor near enough had a full-on relationship. So, you know, you can't say that in Russell's run the female characters weren't sexual in a way. There was a lot of kissing going on, let's just say. But I think Russell's characters, his female characters, had a lot more independence and a lot more strength as women. You know, Rose in Series 1 was, you know, you didn't mess with her. You know, she was direct, she was straight. Martha was in the end as well. She was a bit more of an individual in the end. Donna is the perfect example of a well-written female character. I mean, I don't get why people dislike Donna because she wasn't good-looking or wasn't flirty or any of that. She was the strong, direct, independent woman that makes her own decisions, doesn't listen to anyone else, and does what she wants. And that is how a female character should be. In Moffat's era, the female characters have been very flirtatious, and although they've had moments where they've had their own strength, they've always came back round to being very flirty. I mean, Amy was very strong at some points, but I mean, for God's sake, when the Doctor arrived at her wedding in the Big Bang, she went to kiss him at her own wedding. in front of Rory and her family. What the hell? The amount of times that, you know, we clearly knew that Amy was getting married and had a fiancé, even with her at times, and she was still flirting with the Doctor, was just ridiculous. So as much as Amy had independence, she was still extremely flirtatious. River is the perfect example of a badly written women character, because, I mean, look at the difference between Russell's River and Moffat's River. Russell's River had undertones of flirtiness, of course, because she was calling the Doctor sweetie, she was giving him the looks like she was admiring him. But as soon as Moffat got hold of River, she was flirting, she was kissing him, she was snogging him. They were like that, you know, in the scene with the Day of the Moon when they're shooting the silence and they're back-to-back flirting. It's just like, oh my god, give me a fucking bag to vomit in. So I think characters like River and Tasha Lem, you know, Tasha Lem she had power. You know, she was in charge of a mighty army, and yet she was still brought down to just flirting with the Doctor. It's like Moffat cannot write a female character without making them flirt, no matter how much power they have. And apparently in Series 8 with the Gatekeeper of the Nethersphere, she actually goes to kiss Peter Capaldi's Doctor as well, and he pushes her away, thank God. So, you know, Moffat just cannot write a female character without making them flirt, and that is incredibly frustrating. So I think Moffat needs to give female characters more independence, makes them more of an individual, and I think in Moffat's head, female characters are just stereotyped as being flirtatious and being there just to serve as someone who is meant to flirt with the main character, and that's not what women are about. So I agree with James on Moffat and sexism. I think that he needs to write women differently, and I think Clara is probably the best written companion yet, in the fact that she fancies the Doctor, but she's not full-on flirted with him. I think she's more of a sit back and just admires him, a bit like Donna. So you never know. With Series 8, of course, with Capaldi's Doctor, Moffat might write Clara in a different way. Women might get written in a better way. But that's my rant done. This comment has gone on for way too long. So yeah, maybe I should have saved this for a future video. I don't know. But there you go, Parachute Walker. My lengthy opinions on Moffat and sexism. And my final comment is from John Smith, who says, the reason why no one remembered the Cyber King was explained in the Time of Angels when the Doctor was contemplating about how to save Amy from the crack. He said it was the crack in time was the reason no one remembered the giant Cyber King. Nice review, by the way, thank you very much. And also, Dr. Torchwood112 then replied by saying, but then the universe was rebooted and it happened again. So from Series 6 on, everyone on Earth should remember it. You know, I remember that reference about the Cyber King in the Time of Angels. I remember that, but like Dr. Torchwood said, he rebooted the universe. So I don't know. It really is wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. This is why Moffat's stories are more messy than Russell's, because they're just like timey wimey all over the place. I'd love to see a timeline of what's happened in Moffat's era. That would be one screwed up timeline. But yeah, talk about wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. You can tell Moffat written blank. So then guys, that is it, my worst possible series of New Who. It's going to be very interesting to see what you guys think of it in the comments below. But apart from that, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and along with commenting your opinions on my worst possible series, don't forget to comment your worst possible series in the comments below, and I'll answer them next week. But also, I'm desperate for you guys to give me some ideas. What do you want me to talk about next week? Because of course now I can start doing Series 8 videos. So comment below also if you want me to do a rant on a certain topic, if you want me to do a discussion on something, just generally talk about something. I mean, it's not like I've done any really controversial rants before. But I'm going to be having a good old rant on why I think the 12th Doctor's screwdriver is an absolute joke. Okay, maybe I've done a few. But yes, I was planning on doing a rant on romance in Doctor Who. That is a possibility, and why there shouldn't really be any in Series 8. But if you want me to do something different, don't forget to drop it in the comments below. But until next week, I will see you on Wednesday for whatever video we're going to be doing next week. But until then, have a good weekend, guys, and I'll see you next Wednesday.